I bought this Mazda RX-7 after the previous owner abandoned it for 10 years, and it was in rough shape. But I fixed the complicated rotary engine, got the clutch working again, and fixed a ton of leaks, and took it from running like this to this.
Holy smokes!
But as many of you pointed out, the rotary engine is considered the most unreliable engine to come out of Japan, and well, it still won't make boost, and it's overheating. But this time, I have a few tricks up my sleeve that will not only get this car running, but making more power than it ever has, and best of all, reliably. And even though this car has been off the road for 10 years, I'm going to make this my daily driver in just 7 days. How hard could it be?
Nothing fits! I'm so tired. First things first, I'm gonna figure out why, after all of that work we did, this car still runs like garbage.
Back in 1994, diagnosing a car wasn't so simple.
This is a Mazda diagnosis port, which back in the day, they might have used that port at the Mazda dealership to like plug in a computer and actually see what was wrong with the car, but those computers were never made available for the public. And so the only way to utilize Mazda's onboard diagnostic computer is using this. This is a piece of wire that I very poorly turned into a pin jumper. What's a pin jumper? I don't know, I just made it up, but let me show you. If I use my little quote-unquote pin jumper and I jump the pins 10 and ground, and then I come inside and I turn the key to on, you'll notice that the check engine light will start blinking. So the long flashes mean the 10s digit and the short flashes mean the 1s digit,
which translates to codes 11, 28, 5, and 54. Now, 28 and 54 are just emission stuff, but 11 and 5, those need fixing. Well, until this happened.
Oh man, this is my best pair of jeans.
After months of sitting unwashed, my FD was finally fighting back. I had washed the car to get the wildlife off it when I bought it, but that was the last time. So this thing is filthy. Now, I'm not one of these YouTube detailing magicians, nor am I stocked with a million different sprays and soaps. 2 buckets is enough complexity for me, so Sadistic Suds car soap from our sponsor Avalon King is the ticket. First, in the Call of Duty foam cannon to loosen up the grime, and then in the bucket with the wash mitt to properly get this FD back to JDM icon levels of shine. But see, the thing about washing cars, at least for me,
certified bussin',
is that it's hard to know when to stop. The Sadistic Suds were already in the bucket, so I may as well clay bar it. And now that it's clay barred, I may as well quickly polish up the paint. And just a quick 8 hours later, the car looks, holy hell, it looks good. Years of swirls and clear coat failure were just gone. It looks so good that I don't want to drive it out the garage to get messed up again. You see, this is why I don't wash cars. But of course, there's a solution. It's called Armor Shield 9 from Avalon King, of course. Armor Shield is a ceramic coating that is stupid easy to apply, even for a dummy like me. You just wipe it on, wait a little bit, and wipe it off. And just like that, the freshly rejuvenated Montego Blue RX-7 is protected from UV, water, mud, oil, and all the other garbage that I will no doubt subject this thing to. And the best part, it lasts years. At-home ceramic coatings like Armor Shield 9 are honestly a game changer, especially if you're lazy like me and don't wash your car very often. Lucky for you, Avalon King has an awesome Black Friday sale going on where you can save over $100 on Armor Shield 9. Just hit the link in the description and the King will have your car looking glossy for years to come. Cleaning the car took me an entire day though, so day 1 is over. Our 2 main codes were for the knock sensor, which lives on the side of the block, and the intake air temperature sensor, which lives under the intake manifold. So for the 4,000th time this build, the manifold's coming off.
This is the intake air temperature sensor, which is broken apparently, and we are replacing it with a newer style Bosch sensor. The other thing is this is the air control valve, and we can finally just delete this thing entirely because, well, we got something special. We're gonna pull this thing out and throw it in the garbage once and for all. And by garbage, I mean put it up on RX7 Club for a copious amount of money.
Not that any of it worked. In reality, with all of the broken solenoids, this thing was just never working in the first place. Once that's gone, we could get to the real reason why we're here, the intake air temperature sensor. One of the vital sensors for making this engine run. You see, the brains of this car uses a system called volumetric efficiency, which looks at a few different sensors, namely the intake air temperature sensor and the manifold pressure sensor. And with these two readings, it figures out roughly how much air is going into the engine. And once you know how much air there is, you know how much fuel you need to make combustion happen. Of course, if you don't have one of these sensors reporting to the ECU, then, well, you have a problem. Luckily, it's an easy fix, and in my case, an easy upgrade. Next, of course, is the knock sensor. Now, this might not be one of the two vital sensors for the ECU, but it most definitely is an important one. You see, engine knock, also called detonation or ping, is where the bang part of suck, squeeze, bang, blow happens prematurely. Now, while your wife usually tells you it's okay, it's not. A knock sensor is basically a microphone that can hear that premature detonation happening right at the start and immediately tell your ECU to flex those kegels and keep your engine from blowing up. In the case of the FD, it's yet another sensor that, when not functioning properly, will throw the ECU into limp mode. And between the broken knock sensor and the broken air temperature sensor, we might have fixed our no boost issue. But before we can start the car and see, we need to unmodify the car because you told me to.
You guys might think unmodifying the car is kind of counterintuitive and a waste of time. And typically I would agree with you, but rotaries don't take extra anything. And going full catless means that the car is gonna be overboosting. So to everyone in the comments that chirped me about this, thank you. Because I'll be honest, it's a pretty new mistake. If I blew up the rotary running stock horsepower, that'd just be kind of embarrassing. Smooth the sandpaper. The factory catted mid-pipe is in, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't be overboosting our way into exploding another 13B. Next on the agenda, though, is the final piece of this getting the car to run puzzle.
Of course, overboosting wouldn't be a problem if I didn't have the Fisher-Price computer that Mazda calls an ECU in this thing. And I'm sure many of you are asking, why don't you just swap it out with a Haltech or a Link or a Motec? Well, it's because I'm not made of money, and our only sponsor is just for making the car shinier. But I have an even better solution than a modern supercomputer, an Apexi Power FC that I got for free.
Smash it in.
Now, the beauty of upgrading to a Power FC is that I can delete a lot of the unnecessary complexity that Mazda designed into this engine, helping keep this engine more reliable. And of course, it also means I can start adding some tasty mods. But we'll get to that later.
Battery is hooked up. Power FC is hooked in. Let's turn the key. See what happens.
It started right up, but the idle was definitely not normal.
All right, so as you can hear, the car is still idling like garbage. It went from idling at 4,000 to now it's like jumping between 1,500 and 2,000. I have no idea what the issue is. I think I'm just gonna let it sit and try to learn the idle for a little while and just hope to God that fixes it, because I'm so tired.
It did not fix it. And so began the long process of figuring out the wacky idle. I adjusted the TPS, messed with every screw on the throttle body, but no matter what I did, I couldn't find a solution. So, screw it. Let's just drive this puppy and see if we finally have our boost back.
See what happens.
The car was making boost, and not just for one pull like last time, it was consistent.
It's funny, when I had no cats, it felt faster, so it was over boosting. So, okay, maybe I dodged a bullet here.
That little rotary was running like a top, and even though it felt a little slow, it felt like it could do it all day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, until we did one last pull, and Pickle saw this. Everything was going so well, too.
Time to take it apart again.
It's gonna sit right next to the Mini.
Oh no.
But you see, I have a philosophy in life.
Lord.
Every problem has a shiny JDM solution. And an overheating problem like this means it's time for something very shiny. You see, the factory cooling system in the RX7 is known to suck, and so all of it is coming out for a much larger, much thicker, much more aluminium replacement from Greddy.
All right, so we have taken apart the entire front section of the engine. Imagine 2JZ in here. Look at that, fits so nicely. But you'll never see that. So 2 things on the agenda is going to be draining the radiator here and pulling it out, and then probably removing the air pump because we are getting rid of that system entirely.
I'm hoping that this new V-mount system is the silver bullet for the overheating, but as we get into the install, we're realizing that this is much more of a job than we initially thought. There are a bajillion parts in the kit, none of which are labeled, and our only instructions are a black and white PDF entirely in Japanese. Now, my Japanese was previously limited to kore wa hama desu, which came in handy because a lot of the steps involved hammering and bending things to make parts fit, and to top it all off, the kit is designed for a right-hand drive car, which we'll soon find out meant that a lot of things weren't going to just bolt in. The first all-new part was a new power steering cooler, which didn't really fit. Then we pulled the front end off the car to make room for the goods. Japanese style. A few things like this relay box needed to be relocated, which gave me an opportunity to use my favorite tool, the nut-cert gun.
Alright. See that?
With that done, I started prepping the radiator to go in.
I installed it the wrong way.
Now, for as much as I've complained about this Greddy kit, the parts themselves are actually pretty dang nice. Laser cut brackets, really nice welds.
People want that ASMR though.
We're installing these brackets now.
I guess they just wrote the installation guide on a Friday at the bar.
Whoa, look. MC and then some kanji character and GPP. Isn't it so weird that like everything Japanese is so cool to us?
Mm-hmm.
Like the most mundane thing, like this dude just wrote like bad batch on it, you know, reject batch, and then sent it to us. But because it's in Japanese, I'm like, oh, that's so sick. None of the bolts fit, but yo, it's Japanese. One of the main things that is part of the sort of emissions deletes on this car is removing this. This is the air pump. Now I've mentioned the air pump a few times, but basically what it does is it just pumps fresh air into a few different places. Basically, it's just to add air to make things run a little bit leaner and therefore a little bit more efficient. We're gonna remove it. It's gonna have its own idler pulley, and then in the meantime, we're gonna replace these idler pulleys and change a bunch of these pulleys and the belts. So we got that fresh. So yeah, let's rip this baby apart.
Oh shit. And into the oil it goes. That bull's about to steal that.
While I'm in there, I figured I should change the thermostat to an upgraded unit from Mishimoto. But when we got to the air pump, we were faced with a cryptic warning.
Never remove. What are we doing?
Removing it. How many horsepower do you think we added?
Oh, I mean, at least 5, which is what, 50% of this car?
Yeah, man. Better than getting a sticker.
This project is a definition of while you're in there, because everything is sandwiched in such a convoluted way. Like, look, we took the air pump, and before we installed the new pulley, which goes here, we looked at these lines, and these are rubber lines, and they're hard as a rock. So we were like, okay, we may as well replace these. But if we replace these, we may as well replace these. And look at this one, it's already torn. This is probably why we're not making full boost. So that's great. So now we have to replace these two while we're in here. And then, you know, the best part is, while we're in here, if we take all this stuff off, we'll have access to the EGR, which means that we should remove it and block it off as well. So,
With those crusty lines replaced, I buttoned up the water pump and, say it with me now, while I was in there, swap out the pulleys for new lightweight billet ones, which reduces your rotating mass, but mostly just increases your bling factor. Does anyone say bling anymore? How about it's plus 1000 aura? Oh, that sounded awful. Jesus Christ, I'm old now. The engine was looking nicely refreshed, so it was time for the big boy, the Greddy radiator.
This thing is coming together very nicely.
After that were the radiator pipes, which were a mix of new stuff and cutting up old stuff. With the radiator and pipes in, we were finally one huge step closer to having a finished car.
This is the tube that Greddy supplies. This isn't proof that this kit was designed in the 2000s. I don't know what is.
Considering it was only day 4, it was looking like I could actually finish this car in time. But then we ran into our first major roadblock.
Here's the factory air conditioning condenser, okay? Here's the bracket that's supposed to go on it. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Okay, line them up. And these two are completely off. They're not even close. That's that side. Here's the other side. On the other side, we have this bracket, mounting bracket, and then we have this tab with a rubber grommet. Looking in the pictures, the Japan car doesn't have this tab. Lo and behold, when you bolt this thing in, it fouls this tab thing. So that means I gotta cut this tab off. Hopefully, that is what I need to do, because once I cut it off, it's not going back on.
Of course, even after cutting the tab off, it turns out the holes for the bolts aren't even drilled correctly. And oh man, I wish that was where the problems ended.
All right, you guys ready for this one? Attach AC tube to condenser, okay? Got it? There it is. There's the tube, okay? It's the wrong size. What is this kit? What do I do now? I was under the impression that plug-and-play kits from Japan are like really good, you know? I've never had any issues with stuff that I've bought before, but this Greddy intercooler kit is terrible. Nothing fits. The holes aren't drilled right, the tubes don't fit correctly. Nothing is for a left-hand drive car. It's not made for these cars. I don't know what to do at this point. Well, after doing some perusing on the interwebs, most people just start bending AC lines until they fit. So, you know what? We're gonna do that.
The frustration was mounting,
Nothing lines.
but I was running out of time, so I had to figure it out.
So I spared you guys the gory details, but the AC condenser is officially in. Some of these air guards are in. The air conditioning lines, which look horrible, are in, but this is how they say to do it. And then this line as well. Here's the rad, as well as the air guides for the rad to make sure that the air is flowing directly into here. Now it's time for the intercooler. Once again, it does not fit.
I wish I could say I had fun putting this together, but sometimes working on cars becomes a fight for your life. My sanity was barely hanging on by a thread.
Oh yes, it is coming together. We finally got all of our ducting, the intercooler's in, the intercooler piping is in, the new Greddy aluminum elbow is in. Now I guess we just got the air intakes, which will sit here. Isn't it so cool that they probably used like a clay model or something?
Yeah.
This is back in the day, so I don't know how much computer modeling they were doing, but like they put a pipe in and they're like, okay, we need to make it work around some stuff. And then they created this like clay model with all these like divots and grooves. And then they just created a cast, you know?
Yeah.
And then they just cast these suckers in aluminum.
Literally like just like
Yeah, it's like someone's thumb. It's like straight up a thumb.
They're just like
Yep.
going in there.
Exactly like that. Look, like you can see almost exactly how the guy like took the clay model and like massaged it out, you know?
That's crazy. And this is when he was taking it for the meeting.
He was nervous.
He's like, he clutched it a little bit too tight. It's like the 18th iteration.
Hi.
Hi.
Those.
Can you see my eye?
Oh yeah, I can see it.
It's like an episode of SpongeBob.
Great.
So it goes in like this.
Look at that.
Oh great, just hit the
1,000
lift.
leagues.
Just hit the lift button, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
We forgot a step. Safety first.
Zan and I got to work installing the intake pipes, and with each bolt, the finish line was getting closer and closer. Tight. Oh, that was close.
Oh, boy.
There's no reason to have a clear hose. It's ugly.
It doesn't look good. It just looks like something you would connect to a catheter.
Yo, what kind of catheters you putting in?
You don't understand the kind of girth I'm working with. Looking like pseudo voodoo.
Damn, I'm getting tuned up right now. Is that it? Are we done? Hold on.
We're done.
I think it'd be good. We did it, baby.
Celebrate good times. Come on. Celebrate Grady. Come on. Your kid sucks and it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. Nothing fits.
You know, there's a strong possibility that we're just a bunch of idiots. But I don't think so.
All right, so everything is installed. We have our twin intakes here going to our twin turbos. Here is our main charge pipe going into our new top mount, V-mount intercooler, excuse me. And then that goes into our new Grady elbow, which then goes into the motor. And then underneath is our new Grady radiator. And our AC condenser is living up there as well. Now all that is left to do is, well, we need to get some vacuum caps for these ports that we are not using. And then we need to fill this sucker up with fluid. And oh yeah, that's right. The main thing, the battery needs to get relocated to the trunk. So let's do that now. With all the shiny new pipes in the engine bay, there's no more room for a battery. Yeah, this is like the 90s JDM yellow.
Looks better than the wheels on the car.
So we're relocating the battery to the trunk. Of course, even in the trunk, Mazda couldn't help themselves, so there's another convoluted piece of engineering, the Bose Acoustic Wave subwoofer system.
Can you feel the bass?
It broke. It broke? Oh no! Oh no! It broke! Dang it! With the value of my car now being half of what it was, we started pulling apart the plastics in the trunk to find the space for our new battery.
I think you're supposed to read it like this. So light it is. Either that or I'm just really strong.
The lightweight lithium battery from Anti-Gravity is paired with a 200 amp breaker, so the power to the car can be cut off with just the flip of a switch. The battery tucks nicely into a cavity in the trunk, and we hooked it into the breaker. Anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity, these nuts.
Look at that. You're just gonna destroy it.
Yep. Straight down to bare metal, baby. But first, I'm gonna practice right here.
No, not in my yellow ink. Ah! The ground wire connects directly to the chassis, which means sanding off some of the only good paint on the car to ensure a good connection.
Job done. I say job done, but this was like 1/10 of the job because now the actual job is doing the full battery relocation.
That meant running these thick battery cables through a small grommet in the trunk and then dropping them down to the underbody of the car. And since our lift is finally working, raising the car up above our heads to make the long cable run to the front of the car.
We are going to be routing these power cables, straight copper, through this little, what is this for, actually?
I think it protects fuel lines.
Oh, yeah, get some fuel lines right there.
And then this thing too. The channel that protects the fuel lines is the perfect place to run our cables and gives us a straight shot to both the starter for the positive and the engine block for the ground.
So we did the full run all the way, following the fuel rail. And this is gonna go right to that.
So that just connects to
To the starter.
Okay, beautiful. Oh, they're teaching this at public school in Doha, you know what I'm saying?
In Doha.
Because that's a cutter.
That is a cutter.
Come on.
That's it?
That's it. We should be electricians. The Harbor Freight crimper made quick work of the cable end, and after some heat shrink, this line was done. That is beautiful. Honestly, man, pat yourself on the back. That might be your best work.
Good cry.
It's all downhill from here. You will never do anything better than this.
It's nice to know you've peaked at the time that you've peaked.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is that time.
This is it. And I'm okay with it. All in. Here it goes. Follow it, follow it, follow it, follow it.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Wow.
Should I do it quickly and run, or what's the procedure?
I mean, if you see sparks, then maybe flip it back.
Wait, I got to be in there while it's sparking? We good?
Do it.
Oh, I heard something.
I heard a pump or something.
With the breaker flipped and no fire in sight, it seemed like we killed it on this job.
Okay, so,
Yeah, not in gear, ideally.
all right, I'm just gonna crank it.
Yeah. That's a starter.
So it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
We're officially better than Richard. We were, however, running out of time. It was nearly 4 in the morning on day 6, basically day 7, so we filled up the radiator, bled the cooling system, and called it a night. Because tomorrow is the big day.
It's kind of addictive.
Stop.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Our final day began with buttoning up small stuff.
Fog light became a fog chain, son.
Vacuum caps, reinstalling the bumper, lights. And of course, we can't forget our under tray. And then we capped it off with finally getting rid of my leaky exhaust, which had a surprise waiting for us.
When my muffler exploded,
Guys, I was just driving and then I heard a huge pop, like a huge explosion, and then the car got insanely loud.
I thought it was this. See this? This little hole. I was like, I blew out a little hole. I tried to patch it. Didn't seem to do anything. It turns out that it literally exploded the entire top. Like, you can see everything inside. It's just freaking. I have to go office space on this thing. So this beautiful piece of Japanese engineering, nice and strong, auto EXE exhaust from Japan. I got this from a wonderful subscriber named Jaime, who drove all the way from Austin for a GTR festival where I met him, and he sold me this exhaust. It is a nice piece of kit, honestly, it's very nice. So let's smash it in. Yeah, that looks good.
It kind of reminds me of the Supra.
Yeah, the Supras have freaking cannons, man.
Day 7, complete, and the car, I think, is done.
Well, there's only one way to truly know if it's done.
Woo, should feel good. Finally test driving. This is the Virgin test drive. And so far it drives really normal. The idle's too high, but... Oh, yes. That's boost, baby. Oh, yes. It's not too fast. That 276 quote-unquote horsepower that it makes. Now, here is the thing. When we test drove this car in episode 1, it would get into boost in the first 5 minutes of the drive, but as soon as it warmed up, it would stop getting into boost. The second turbo just absolutely would not kick on. So, oh, all right. Woo! Hey! Oh, she's quick. The biggest problem we had last time though was that it was overheating. It was hitting almost 110 degrees Celsius on the water temperature. And now, after driving around and boosting for 20 minutes, we are at 85 degrees Celsius. That means we've got 25 degrees Celsius cooler. 85 is perfect. That's right where it needs to be. This is it. I think this was a success. I genuinely cannot see
any reason why I would need to modify this car any further. Yeah, I think the car is running really good. Like, it feels genuinely really quick. Come on! Come on! I lost to a PLC! No! No!
What did I do?
I guess I'll see you guys in episode 3. Don't forget to check out Avalon King's Black Friday sale at the link in the description.